Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Justice Center here at the University of North Carolina, Asheville. My name is Ben Judge, and I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Mr. Dan Savage. But before I can do that, just a few housekeeping notes. First, please silence all cell phones. I'll give you a moment. The second is video recording and photographs during the presentation tonight are not permitted. All right. Now along with the introduction. Dan Savage writes the widely syndicated sex advice column, Savage Love. With his frank, funny advice on sex and relationships, Dan creates a dialogue that empowers people to openly and honestly discuss these topics. In 2010, Dan and his husband Terry Miller created the It Gets Better project. They wanted to give LGBT youth hope for their own futures by encouraging LGBT adults to share their stories. Millions have since participated in the It Gets Better project, and countless young people have been inspired by it. Dan is the author of 6 books. He is a regular contributor to the op-ed pages of the New York Times and to public radio's This American Life. Dan is a frequent guest on The Colbert Report, on Comedy Central, and Real Time with Bill Maher on HBO. In April of 2012, Dan's own television show, Savage You, premiered on MTV. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Dan Savage.
I am delighted to be here. I am sorry I'm late. I'm unaccustomed to speaking in gymnasiums, unless my mouth is full. Try to keep up. When I come to colleges and universities to speak, sometimes there's a bit of a controversy, because I'm a bit controversial at times. And the argument will usually be made that I am going to show up on campus with my great big sweaty gay agenda and I'm going to shove it down everyone's throats, which is where my gay agenda belongs. But I have this wonderful dodge, having worked as a sex advice columnist, as an advice columnist for these 20 years. I work in a question and answer format. It's been carved into me, the Q&A format. So I have arrived with no agenda. I have no prepared remarks. We are not going to speak tonight about what I want to speak about. We are going to speak about what you want to talk about. So however inappropriate, however dirty, disgusting, irreligious the conversation tonight gets, you have no one to blame but yourselves. Because I'm just answering questions. Question 1, do you like cats? No. I'm very allergic. I know, it's sad. It creates an inhibition and then a revulsion and self-protection. Marry me? No. I am married, so that would be complicated. Question, I am sexually active, but I have yet to have an orgasm. Is there something wrong with me? Well, actually, what you wrote is I have yet to have an orgasm. There is no I in orgasm. Just like there's no I in team, there's no I in orgasm. But there should be an I in orgasm, so I'm going to support your spelling, O-R-G-A-S-I-M, as an alternate spelling, and perhaps one that we should popularize. Based on your handwriting, I'm going to say you're a girl. Based on this idea that you could be having sex without having orgasms, I'm going to say you're a girl. Because I don't know many boys who would describe it as sex if they weren't ejaculating. I don't know many girls, unfortunately, who would describe it as sex, what they had been doing as sex, if the guy wasn't coming. Because the guy coming somehow has become the definition of sex for too many people, too many straight people. Here's what you need to do. You are sexually active, but you have yet to have an orgasm. You need to start masturbating. You need to get a vibrator. You need to spend some alone time with your own labia and your own clitoris without the pressure or expectation of a partner in the room. Think about it, ladies. Guys, because they are encouraged to masturbate and because male masturbation is obvious and you know when you're done, because look, right? Guys arrive at partnered sex knowing how their dicks work, knowing what feels good, knowing what their arousal pattern looks like, knowing when they're feeling close, knowing when they're coming because they've been beating off for a decade. On average, by the time they get to partnered sex. Women, all too often, because of the shit the culture throws at women about female genitalia and about female sexual pleasure, all too often women arrive at partnered sex never having had an orgasm. They don't know, many women, how their genitals work, what arousal feels like, what the approach of orgasm feels like, what their own orgasms look and feel like. If you don't know how to get you off, how is he supposed to figure it out? It helps if you know how to get you off so you can show him, right? Think of him as a sex toy. Because that is how he thinks of you in some respects. And you should think of him that way too, as this 5'6" to 6'6" walking, talking dildo. And you have to know what it takes for you to get there, for you to climax, so that you can communicate that to him verbally or non-verbally during sex. So, you have yet to have an orgasm during sex, I believe, because you've yet to have an orgasm alone because you are not masturbating. And if you are masturbating and you can climax alone, you can climax with him. You just have to show him what it takes. And guys, it takes more than your magic penis in her vagina to make her come. It's a stat that we sex writers and advisors and researchers throw around constantly, and you would think it would sink in, and yet it somehow doesn't, and we always have to talk about it. 75% of women cannot climax during vaginal intercourse, from vaginal penetration alone. They require additional focused, intense clitoral stimulation in order to climax. And the clitoris is not a joy buzzer at the top of the vaginal canal. Outside and up. Right? It needs focus, attention, and touch. And ladies, you can touch yourself during sex while he is fucking you. You can play with your own clit. Or so I'm told. Anyway, and then you will be orgasming. At what point does just liking sex a lot turn into an addiction? It's so subjective. I like sex a lot, you are a sex addict. I don't believe in sex addiction. I believe that people can behave compulsively, people can eat too much, drink too much, fuck too much, they can anything too much. They can be having sex or dinner or drinks for the right reason, or they can be having sex or dinner or drinks for the wrong reason. You need to ask yourself, am I doing it for the right reason or the wrong reason? Is the sex I'm having bringing good things into my life? And pleasure is a good thing and a legitimate thing all by itself. Or is it bringing nothing but chaos and drama and ugliness into my life? If it's the latter, then I wouldn't say that you're a sex addict. I would say that maybe you need to rethink the sex you're having and the reasons you're having it. But for humans to describe themselves as sex addicts is like humans describing themselves as oxygen addicts. Yes, we are all addicted to oxygen. We are all addicted to dinner and lunch and breakfast and sex. It is a natural human function, and you are wired, except for the asexuals, to want it and want a lot of it. Are you still in contact with the mother of your son? P.S. Your books made me cry. Thanks for sharing your realness. Vodka. Vodka Helen, it has a name. Can you hear me? This is so reverby up here, I don't know if it's spooking me. My husband in Canada, boyfriend in America, Terry, and I adopted our son almost 15 years ago. Our son DJ is almost 15 now. Boy, what I wouldn't do to have the terrible twos back. Oh my God. We are still in contact with his mother. Terry and I did what's known as an open adoption, which when we were doing it was very uncommon, particularly for same-sex couples. In an open adoption, the birth mother chooses the parents that the child is placed with. And what we had to do to make that happen is we had to go to this adoption agency in Portland, Oregon. And the reason we wanted to do an open adoption was because we wanted our son's mother to be, or our child's mother at that point, to be a part of our child's life. And we believed in the concept of open adoption, that it would be better, and in an open adoption, the birth mother has ongoing, legally enforceable contact with the child after placement. The child doesn't grow up not knowing where they came from or how you came to be their parents, and that's what we wanted. The trick, though, for us was that no one had ever done an open adoption where a child had been placed with a gay male couple. And no one knew if anyone would choose us. We went to the seminar, the open adoption seminar, and they brought in some mothers who had placed their children for adoption through the agency, and each and every one said that their top priority for the parents that they picked for their child was a good Christian couple in a good Christian home. And Terry and I sat there looking at each other like, well, we can't fake that. Let's grow big, bushy Amish beards and see if we can fly under the radar. And the other thing they did after that day was they had all of the couples who were there to adopt tell their infertility stories. Because you're way ahead of me. Because most straight couples who adopt have tried first to have their own biological child or children and couldn't, and they arrive, many of them, at adoption from this place of grief and failure and resentment. They resent these people who are pregnant when they can't be pregnant. And a lot of the open adoption process early is walking parents through that so that you don't make the birth mother feel bad about what she was able to do and you weren't. But we had to sit in a room as they went around the table, and each couple had to tell their infertility story. And when it got to us, we looked up and we were like, I keep inseminating him and nothing. It's funny now, it wasn't funny in the room then. Because people didn't have a sense of humor at that moment. The funny part of our adoption, though, was the average wait at the agency we went through was 9 months to 18 months. They couples who had waited as long as 5 years. And so they told us to think it would be 5 years, just to tell us 5 years. And we thought that would be perfect, because we'd only been together for 2.5, 3 years, and we thought then we will have been together 8 years. That would be a really good time for this to happen. But we got all of our paperwork in, and 5 weeks later we had a child. We were picked immediately. By a girl, a young woman, she's a teenage homeless street kid, who had, before she chose us, chose 2 straight couples who passed on our son. Because our birth mom, Melissa, drank and used drugs during her pregnancy, until the moment she found out she was pregnant, and she stopped. The moment she found out she was pregnant was about 3.5, 4 months into the pregnancy. And her stopping alcohol and drugs as a homeless street kid in Portland, Oregon, in a cold and wet winter was something, because that's how homeless street kids stay warm. They drink. And she stopped cold turkey because she cared for this child, and cared enough for this child to recognize that she couldn't parent either. And I always bring this up when people tell me that every child deserves a mother and a father. My son had 3 chances. His biological parents who couldn't, and 2 straight couples who wouldn't take a chance on him. We stepped up, and he's fine, and he's good. And he doesn't have drug and alcohol issues from pregnancy. He has them as a teenager now, like all teenagers. So he had a chance at a mother and a father, and straight people failed him over and over and over again. How should I approach my long-distance boyfriend about an open relationship? Via text. I think open relationship is kind of a big, fat, loaded term. If what you're talking about is, we're in college, you're going to college there, I'm here, we want to have the college experience. The pressures of being together might actually tear us apart. If being with you means I don't get to have the college experience, that incentivizes ending the relationship. I think when you're having a long-distance relationship, sometimes the best policy is one that the military doesn't need anymore, but you can pick it up off the shelf and use it. The don't ask, don't tell policy. That while I'm here and while you're there, college experience things might happen. I'm not going to ask, you don't have to tell, you don't ask, I won't tell. And then if we're still together 10 years out, we'll get really drunk one night and confess all of our college things. And so less of like an open relationship, anything goes, more of a little license, a little latitude, a little breathing room. And I think that is going to be an easier conversation to have than, I want an open relationship. Let's be poly, let's bring 10 boyfriends home to Thanksgiving. That might spook him. For gay men, sex on a first date, would you advise against this if you're looking for a relationship? Well, here's a funny story. Often when I speak to young gay groups or gay college students, someone who knows that I am married, as I have mentioned, that I have a child, we have a dog, a one-eyed, deaf, blind toy poodle, or one-eyed, deaf, half-blind, brain-damaged toy poodle. They're fun, they run into things, and they can't get hurt anymore. Or if they do get hurt, they don't realize it because they're blind and deaf and brain-damaged toy poodles. And some kid will say, you know, you're married and you have a family, you have children, you have the dog, the picket fence, all of that, that's what I want. But I disapprove of drugs, I don't drink, I hate the bar scene, I don't have hookups or one-night stands. Dan, how did you get what I want? Family. How did you get it? And I look at them and I say, well, I was drunk and I was in a gay bar and I met this kid who was fucked up on pot and we had a one-night stand. Sometimes one-night stands lead to really wonderful and lasting relationships. The trick is never to have a one-night stand with someone you couldn't see yourself dating. Don't have one-night stands with people you think are dumb douchebags or stupid bitches. Don't have one-night stands with people that you hold in contempt, because those never can turn into a relationship. The bar you want to set for yourself for one-night standing and hooking up is to get to know, whatever you've gotten to know about this person, as quickly as you've gotten to know it, you could see yourself dating this person. You could see yourself maybe in a relationship with this person, and so you can hook up with this person. Those kinds of one-night stands lead to relationships. Hooking up with people just because you're desperate and horny and you're going to sleep with somebody even though you think they're gross, or an asshole, or a bitch, those never lead to relationships. That leads to hurt feelings and averted eyes walking across quads. trying not to make eye contact. Don't do that. So for gay men, would I advise against a one-night stand? No, of course not. I wouldn't know Terry if we hadn't had a one-night stand. And it was a pretty sleazy one-night stand. Sleazy. Like, he was in the shower the next morning and I literally had to go get his wallet out of his pants to get his driver's license out of his wallet to look at his name. Because I couldn't remember his name. Then I looked at his name and went into the shower and said, "Hey, Terry." And he never left. I am apparently only attracted to women in relationships. Every girl for the past year that I've asked out says, "You're really awesome, you're a really awesome guy, but I have a boyfriend. Are they all messing with me, or do I just have terrible luck?" Yes. I don't know. I'd have to hunt all these women down and verify the existences of all of these boyfriends to be able to tell you for a fact that you have terrible luck. I think it's likelier that they're telling the truth than each girl you've asked out has somehow landed on the exact same lie to fob you off. So I think you are having terrible luck and you keep asking out girls who have boyfriends versus all the girls on campus got together, circulated your photo and agreed that they would tell this one guy that they were all dating. How do you get your timid boyfriend to make moves? Vodka. You invite him to make moves. You encourage him to make moves. You tell him that making moves is something that you need in a relationship because you want to feel desirable and you don't always want to be the initiator. And then if nothing changes, you have to look at him and decide whether you're willing to pay that price of admission, whether that guy is worth it. Some people just aren't the initiator. Some people will always have to be elbowed or reminded to make the move, to initiate, and they will never get there, no matter how much you implore or beg. So you have to look at your boyfriend if he turns out to be that kind of guy and decide whether you can let that go, whether that's the price of admission that you're willing to pay, that you will always have to initiate if you're with this guy, but this guy is worth it. And then if he is worth it, pay that price of admission willingly and happily, and then don't bitch about it or complain about it for the rest of your fucking life, right? The only reason people in long-term relationships can keep those long-term relationships going, it's not because they're perfect for each other, it's détente. It's Cold War, it's mutual assured destruction. There are things you just don't bitch at each other about anymore because they're not gonna change, and so addressing them endlessly is just ripping open scabs and creating conflict or making sure the relationship is high conflict. All relationships, all successful long-term relationships are treaties that have been negotiated, and there are no-go areas. There are things you don't discuss. There are things that always make you unhappy. And you find, if you're in a long-term relationship, that if you can just suspend your disbelief and ignore those things, that your relationship will be happier and healthier than it would be otherwise. So, if he's worth it, if you ask him to change, ask him to change, ask him to change, ask him to change, and it never changes, if it changes, good for you. You won. Yahtzee, you won the relationship game. But if it doesn't change, and you choose to stay, even though it hasn't changed and may never change, then stay and don't complain about it. You have chosen that. That is the price of admission that you must pay. I speak from experience. I'm kind of a neat freak, and Terry is a pig. He's one of those people who moves through life and he needs something, so it's in his hand, and the moment he doesn't need it anymore, he releases it. And he must think he's like Harry Potter on the space station, like it's just gonna float away and disappear. So things just drop wherever he needed them last. And he never knows where his keys are, because that's one of those things that he needs when the car has to go, and the minute the car doesn't have to go, he lets go of the keys. And for years he would particularly drove me crazy, he would make sandwiches for himself, and then I would go into the kitchen and there would be an open loaf of bread, there would be an open jar of mayonnaise, there would be meat moldering on the counter, and I would scream at him, "Put this fucking shit away, oh my God." I would go find him and march him around the kitchen and make him put it away to show him how it was done. And then one day I just put it all away myself and I thought, that was faster. And now that's what I do. It's like Terry's making a sandwich. If we all don't want to die of botulism in 2 days, I better go put the mayonnaise away, which has the car keys in it. And I'm sure there are things like that he does for me, but I would have to know what my faults were, and I don't. I take an SSRI, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, but it decreases my libido, as those antidepressants often do. What are ways to increase my sex drive? I am female. You need to change your antidepressant medications. You need to march into your doctor's office and advocate for yourself as a sexual being. Too many doctors who prescribe these sorts of medications treat a destroyed libido as a price of admission you have to pay. It is not a price of admission you have to pay. And they treat people who come in and say, I'm less depressed, but I'm less horny, as whiners, as opposed to someone with a legitimate beef. If your libido has been destroyed by your antidepressants, you need to find different meds or a different dose. You need to find a balance that allows you to be sexual, and you need to have a doctor who regards your sexuality and desire as something legitimate, something that his treatment of you is not supposed to obliterate. If people's legs fell off because they were taking these drugs, doctors would be very careful about prescribing them in ways that made it less likely for your legs to fall off, because they prioritize your legs. They should prioritize your sex life no less than your legs. I am a male with feminine tendencies, and I am attracted to both men and women. I often feel as though I fill a masculine role socially, but adopt a more feminine role sexually. How do you communicate that to potential new partners? Just like that. You say that. You get that tattooed on your chest. So the first time they start to go down, they're like, whoa. You know, to make a sort of a broader point, what you have here is this failure to communicate because you fear being judged, you fear being rejected. Embrace rejection and embrace judgment. Because if you tell this truth about yourself to someone and they get up and go, good riddance. Not right for you. Not someone you needed to be wasting your time on. You don't want to say it in a way that spooks people. You don't want to bust out info in ways that screams, I have bad judgment or poor impulse control. You want to do it in good time, not like, hey, you want to go grab coffee sometime? Yes, I would like to grab coffee, but you need to know that. Not like that, like let them get to know you and then roll this information out. And if they leave, good. They're not right for you. People often fear revealing who they are sexually, sharing their kinks, or how they identify, with the feminine or the masculine roles. They fear throwing it out for fear of being rejected. You need to regard that as a superpower. That once you say these things, once you tell your truths, you find out that person that you're with, they found out one thing about you. You're going to find out everything you need to know about them, whether they're right for you or not, in that moment. And so regard it not as a problem. Regard it, when the right moment comes, as a favor you're doing yourself. So say exactly what you said. And if the person is like, oh wow, for me to respond erotically, if you're dating a woman and she says, for me to respond erotically, the guy I'm with really needs to be kind of man's man and manly, and I need to be taken, then you two need to be friends. And that rejection wasn't personal, you just weren't compatible. And maybe in talking about it, she can revisit the assumptions she's made about the men she's attracted to, and maybe you will come to some sort of congress that works for both of you. Maybe she is open to more than she assumed she was, but you won't find that out till that conversation starts. I know you aren't supposed to divulge too much about your personal life. Oh. I know this question, my agreement with Terry is I don't talk about our sex life, and that's what this question is referring to. I know you're not supposed to divulge too much about your personal life with Terry, but could you tell us the best thing you have done for your sex life with your husband? Where there were those hooks in the ceiling. The best thing that we do, but many same-sex couples and same-sexers do this is we have a very broad definition of sex. That sex isn't just anal intercourse. Sex is anything that we can do together that gets us both off or one of us off if the other isn't feeling entirely offable at that moment. But that gives us pleasure and makes us feel close and connected and intimate. And when you have a really broad definition of sex, you have more sex. If you, and this is especially true for the straight kids in the room. Raise your hand if you're a straight kid. We want this to be a safe place for straight kids. This is for the straight guys. If every time you consented to sex, guys, you got your ass fucked, you would consent to sex less often than you might otherwise. Right? If sex is defined as you're gonna get fucked, that's a high bar to clear. What if you're not feeling like getting fucked? If you're the one who gets fucked, the risks are higher for sexually transmitted infections. Certainly for pregnancy, if you're the lady getting fucked, the risks are higher than they are for the guy. But also, even if there's birth control and it's a good relationship and it's established, you say, would you like to have sex? If you're the one who's gonna get fucked, you're the one who will still be lying there wide awake an hour after it's over. Because your hole got pounded, right? And so you're sort of tingly, and you gotta pee 10 times, and you have to deal with kind of the aftermath of the fucking, while the guy rolls over and falls asleep, which is partly biological with the prolactin that gets released into his system, which puts him to sleep. So guys, if you are with women and you want, them to consent to sex more often, have a really broad definition of sex. Do not regard a hand job as some sort of sad consolation prize. Hand jobs are sex. Oral sex is sex. Oral sex's last name is sex. It's sex. Often, there's some jealousy when you're gay and you're out, you make straight friends for the first time. Your straight male friends realize how easy it is for you as a gay guy to get laid because gay men are sluts. And we're not sluts because we're gay. We're sluts because we're men. Straight men would do everything that gay men do if straight men could, but straight men can't because women won't. And I'm not saying that all gay men are at bathhouses or in parks having anonymous intercourse. Lots of us don't do that. I don't do that. But lots of us do. And lots of straight guys would if they could. If I told straight guys, there's this magic place called a bathhouse that's full of women, a lot of them really hot, who want to have sex with you. They're already naked. You don't have to pay them, and they don't want your phone number and they never want to see you again. Do you think straight men would be like, nah, that wouldn't be right? There would be straight guy-shaped holes in the doors. Remember, a gay bathhouse is a whorehouse staffed by volunteers, and there is no equivalent in straight land. Where was I going with this? How did I get on this? Oh, definitions of sex. When you first make your gay friends, they make their straight friends, and the straight guys say, oh, we're so jealous, so easy for you guys to get laid, you have so much sex. It's like, yeah, but a lot of what we have that same-sexers have, you wouldn't think was sex. You would be disappointed. If there's anything, when you say, what have we done for our sex life? If there's anything that I would love to pound into the heads, just the heads, of straight people all over the world, it's the 4 magic words that begin every same-sex encounter. Adopting this, if straight people adopted this, it would improve your sex lives and your relationships so much. When a straight couple, a boy meets girl, they get to consent. They're flirting, they're having fun. Maybe it's in one night, maybe it's over some dates, maybe they're married and they're gonna have sex for the first time on their wedding night. When they get to yes, everything else is assumed. They stop talking when they get to yes. Conversation over, now we're fucking, right? When two guys get to yes, then the conversation starts. Two guys get to consent, then they have to talk about what's going to happen, because nothing is assumed, because what's going to happen isn't obvious. The 4 magic words that begin every same-sex encounter, gay or lesbian, what are you into? Boy meets boy, they're going to go home, they're going to do it. One of them says to the other, what are you into? At that moment, anything can be ruled in or out. At that moment, often what you hear, two boys meet, they're going to go do it, what are you into? One will say, I'm not into anal sex at all. And the other's like, okay, great. Let's do this, 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 and this, right? There's so much else. And the guy who heard, I'm not into anal, the guy who heard the other guy say that, doesn't have a heart attack and die. Now let's imagine that boy meets girl, and they get to yes, they get to consent, and then they say, what are you into? And the girl says, I'm not into vaginal intercourse at all. The straight boy has a heart attack, right? Because she ruled out what he assumed sex was. If you define sex more broadly, and you can have a conversation that empowers women to rule out penetration without ruling out sex, women will consent to sex more often. If every time you consented to sex, you were consenting to penetration, you would consent less. If we empowered women in their relationships to consent to sex without that meaning they were consenting to penetration, women would feel more sexual, freer to be sexual. And you would have more sex as a straight guy. As a straight guy, you would have more sex. Less vaginal sex. And who likes vaginal sex anyway? I don't. No, I love it, in theory and from afar. Does boob size really matter? Yes. It matters to people that it matters to, and it doesn't matter to people that it doesn't matter to. And since there's not one boob size that appeals to all people, your boob size will matter to someone. For someone, you have the perfect boobs, right? Some guys like nothing, some guys like a lot, some guys think more than a mouthful is a waste, some guy like ridiculous Hindenburg disasters waiting to happen. Don't apologize for your body or your boobs. Put them out there and see who comes running. And don't grieve the people who don't come running because they weren't right for you and you weren't right for them. And you can have sex with boobs, or so I heard just now. I've seen those videos. Nobody looks attractive when they're like looking down during that. If you make a titty fucking video tonight, please, ladies, pick a point on the wall above and let him do his thing. Because nobody looks good like that. And if you're gonna look like that the whole time, you can't complain when he comes up your nose. Because you're putting your nose right there. Look over and away. Let him kiss your ear. Sometimes we are bullied not by our peers, but by our parents. What is your advice for this situation? Let's talk about the It Gets Better project for just a minute. In the last 2 years, it's really 2 years ago this week that we filmed the first video, Terry and I, in our dining room. It was 2 years ago this week. Seems like further away. In the time since we launched the It Gets Better project, so much sort of up with people, goodwill, touchy-feely hoo-ha has congealed around the project. It became the feel-good video project of the summer, right? The one thing online that could unite Buck Angel, trans porn star, and Barack Obama, the President of the United States. And people sort of lost sight that there is an upraised middle finger at the heart of the It Gets Better project. The It Gets Better project is an act of aggression, and it came from a place of real anger. LGBT kids, lesbian, gay, bi, and trans kids are 4 times likelier to commit suicide, 4 times greater risk of suicide. LGBT kids whose parents are hostile, rejecting, not insane, bigoted, beating them, just hostile, merely hostile. Kids whose parents are hostile, queer kids, are at 8 times greater risk of suicide. Kids with hostile parents those parents double their kids' already quadrupled risk of suicide. Tony Perkins today, before the National Press Club, Tony Perkins, head of the Family Research Council, the SPLC designated anti-gay hate group, so designated not because they were opposed to gay marriage. The Catholic Church is opposed to gay marriage. They are not designated an anti-gay hate group. Designated because they lie and they demagogue. They conflate homosexuality with pedophilia. They misrepresent studies. They lie. They are a hate organization. Tony Perkins today encouraged parents not to tolerate or condone homosexuality in their children. Tony Perkins knows what he's doing. He knows that any parent who takes his advice about their gay child is doubling their kid's already quadrupled risk of suicide. And I believe it's his goal. They point to the LGBT youth suicide rate as proof that the gay lifestyle is unhealthy and dangerous. Then they do everything in their power to make sure that suicide rate stays exactly where it is. They oppose anti-bullying programs. They encourage parents to reject their gay kids, knowing that that is going to, in many cases, lead to that child's suicide attempt, that then they can hold up as evidence that being gay is unhealthy and dangerous. So, when we started the It Gets Better project, the kids who were most on our minds were kids with hostile parents, kids with homophobic parents, kids who had parents who would never in a million years take them to an LGBT youth support group. And the idea behind the project was we were going to bring the LGBT youth support group to them. We're going to put it in their computer. We're going to put it in their pocket. And it's worked. We got, 6 months after we launched the project, we got a letter from a 15-year-old lesbian in a rural area being bullied, came out to her parents, and her parents threatened to throw her out of the house. 40% of homeless teenagers are LGBT kids who were kicked out or thrown out after they came out or were outed to their families. Her parents threatened to throw her out, forced her into a reparative therapy program at her church, threatened to cut her off, not pay for her education, not allow her to see her siblings ever again, if she didn't change, if she didn't take it back, if she didn't tell them that she was straight. So she did what she had to do. She told her parents that she was straight, that she was confused, that she was not a lesbian. And so up goes the poster of Justin Bieber on her wall, which is as close to lesbianism as she will get for the next few years. And I'm not making fun of effeminate boys when I say that. If anybody who's ever met any of my boyfriends knows that effeminate boys are my favorite kind. She wrote to say that she was watching It Gets Better videos on her phone, in her bed, under the covers, in her bedroom, in her parents' house, in the middle of the night. And that she was seeing what we had hoped she would see. Women and men like her, whose families had the same reaction her family was having, who made it, who are happy, and happy to still be alive, and also whose families have come around. The most heartbreaking thing, and so what I've always said, or what I said when I started the project on CNN and a bunch of other places, was we're going to talk to your kids whether you want us to or not. We're not waiting for your permission anymore. We're not waiting for you to drop them off at the LGBT youth support group. We're going to talk to them whether you want us to or not. The upraised middle finger at the heart of the It Gets Better project. And after I got that letter from this girl, I started revising how I talked about that. Because she said something that was so, and I get weepy every time I talk about it, she said something that was so heartbreaking. That every day she was watching videos, and every day she was going downstairs and looking at her mother and father, who are being so brutal to her right now. She says, every day I get up and I go, look at my mom and dad, and I love them for who they're gonna be in 10 years. That's what she saw at the It Gets Better project. Parents like hers, parents who reacted the way hers reacted, sitting next to their gay children on couches, apologizing to their gay children for what they had done to them. And it was giving her the strength not only to hold on, but to keep loving the parents who are failing her so badly right now. So that's just a little rant about parents and the damage they can do. I went to the anti-bullying conference at the White House and I got really pissed off because they kept talking about what teachers and parents can do about bullying, and they never mentioned that for many LGBT kids, parents are the worst bullies, as is your experience. My advice, The only leverage you have over your parents when you're an adult is your presence. If they can't love and respect you, they don't get to see you. We have to move from a place of fearing our parents' rejection and get to a place of making our parents fear ours. It used to be that the hostile, rejecting parent was the norm. The loving, accepting parent was the exception. That has flipped. Your parents, if they're hostile, are the freaks, and you should not tolerate it. You can find better parents. You can find other people who will love and respect you. You can build your own family. What I tell young people who are having this problem with your parents is, after they finish paying for your education and you have your first paycheck, what you say to your parents is, you have a year. I've come out, you have a year. Ask me any horrible question, say anything that you want to say. Here are some books. I won't bring anybody around. But you just have a year, and then you're going to treat me like you love me, and you're going to accept me, or you're not going to see me. And you have to mean it, and you have to follow through, and you would be surprised how effective that is. Because think about what your parents are doing when they bully you, when they tell you not to mention that you have a boyfriend, or a girlfriend, when they tell you not to bring anybody around, when they tell you they love you but they hate your sin. They're having a tantrum. And any parent, including your own, will tell you that tantrums continue if tantrums work. If you are not talking about your boyfriends, if you are editing yourself, their tantrum is working. What you need to do is get to a place where you say, your tantrum won't work anymore. Leverage your presence. And then if they come around, the hardest thing you have to do, after they've treated you so poorly, is forgive them. You have to love them. You said horrible things to your parents when you were a child. You had tantrums, you said I hate you, you slammed doors, you said I wished I'd never been born, you said I wish you weren't my parents. Those are daggers that went straight to your parents' heart, and they forgave you. If they're decent parents, when you said those horrible things, they said, you don't mean that, I love you. And you don't even remember saying those things. Your parents remember each and every time. And if they don't bring it up, they forgave you. You can do the same as an adult gay child when your parents say horrible things to you. If they get past it, let it go. Let go of your anger and forgive them. My first boyfriend, serious boyfriend, together 5 years, there was 12 years. We had 5 older siblings and then 12 years and then him. And his biggest insecurity was he was the accident. And he hated that. Anybody he told about being 12 years, they go, oh, you're the accident baby. And he'd get really mad. When he came out to his mother, who is Catholic, super Catholic, hence all these children, his mother looked right at him and said, I should have had that abortion. It's staggering, right? It knocked him over. He forgave her. She's a wonderful, loving mother. He never brought it up. She apologized one day for it. He never throws it in her face because he's forgiven her for it. You will have to do that, hopefully one day too, for your parents who are bullying you right now. We know why, but how did you come up with the term Santorum? 1 second. So, in 2003, Rick Santorum gave an interview to the Associated Press where he said, compared consensual gay sex to child rape and fucking dogs. And so we thought that was vile, and a reader of mine wrote in and said, let's have a little contest to memorialize this interview by redefining Santorum. And so I thought that was funny. I put it in my column. Readers sent in proposed new definitions, and then readers voted, and they chose the winning definition, which is still in the top 3 Google returns. For more than a decade was the #1 Google return when you Googled Santorum, and is now in usage in its new meaning. And its new meaning has spread so far and wide that when Rick Santorum suddenly burst back onto the national scene in last year when he was running for president, people kept writing people kept saying all over Twitter and blogs and letter sections of newspapers, it's nice that he's running for president, but maybe he should have changed his last name. That's a terrible name for a politician. There are millions of people who think that the name came, the definition came first, then came the politician. But the new definition is the frothy mix of lube and fecal matter that is sometimes the byproduct of anal sex. I know, horrible, right? And only the most important word in the definition is sometimes. Because if you're doing anal sex right, there is no Santorum. There is no fecal matter. You don't have anal sex with an ass full of shit for the same reason you don't have oral sex with a mouthful of food. It makes a mess and it's uncomfortable. Easier to know when your mouth is empty, but you can learn. So it was really my readers who came up with that definition. How do you properly handle same-sex experimentation between tweens? Oh my God. Well, you don't have to give them the birth control lecture, although you should, because many young people who engage in same-sex experimentation are not going to be gay or lesbian necessarily when they grow up. A lot of same-sex experimentation is because it's less stressful and less fraught. I think you talk about it the same way you talk to an opposite-sex pair of tweens. You tell them that it's natural to be curious, it's natural to want to experiment. You would rather they didn't, that there are consequences. Pleasure is wonderful, this is coming your way. Tween, though, means not even 13 yet, right? That's too young. And I'm a pretty sex-positive guy. I don't think 11-year-olds should be humping each other. Call me Rick Santorum, but I think that's wrong. And I think you should communicate that to those tweens. You should say, too soon, not yet, don't shame them. Understandable, lots of people, you know, sex is kind of a race, and a lot of people stand there at the starting blocks and are really anxious to get going. You have 70 years to run this race. There is no hurry. Understandable that you're curious, come to me with questions. Sometimes kids are experimenting because they want to see what this stuff is like because they can't ask anybody. Make sure there's someone they can ask that isn't you. Saying, you can ask me anything? Often when you say that to a child, what you're saying is, we will never talk about this because you won't ask me. Identify an aunt, a family friend, a relative, a neighbor that they see some, but not all the time. That they have access to, but isn't in their face constantly. So if they have a crisis or a question they need answered immediately, they can go to this person with your permission. And the deal with that person is, they don't report back to you. And you make that explicit. You tell your kid, you can ask Uncle Tim anything, and Uncle Tim won't tell me what you asked him about. That's our deal. So find an Uncle Tim. Oh my God. I have been putting dildos in my ass lately. So call me maybe. That just somehow popped into my head. I've been putting dildos in my ass lately and I want to graduate to shaving cream cans. Is that okay and safe to do? No, duh. I'm sure this is not a real question. I hope it's not a real question. I suspect it might be a real question because there are plenty of people out there in emergency rooms having all sorts of ephemera yanked from their butts. Don't put anything in your butt that wasn't designed to go in a butt, and penises are included on that list. Because it's dangerous. If it wasn't designed to go there, it's unsafe. Go to smittenkitten.com, read about safe toys. Please get toys without phthalates or whatever they're called. You don't want the chemicals leaching into you any more than you want shaving cream leaching into you. Get a real sex toy. I'm a guy who likes to cross-dress and have I'm a guy who likes to cross-dress, but have a lady friend who likes to be dominated. Are those two kinks compatible? Sure. Perhaps not concurrently. I don't think, unless, you know, she can eroticize you as sort of a Rocky Horror, Tim Curry, Dr. Frankenfurter style dom. And why couldn't she? That might be totally hot. Unless you're in a really submissive headspace when you cross-dress, you should be able to do these both at once. But if she wants you to be like a hyper-masculine type when you're dominating her, then there are nights when you dominate her for her pleasure and nights when you get to dress up for yours. And you take turns indulging each other's kinks. Oh, did everyone see that science caught up with me? Y'all know what GGG is? Good, giving, and game. It's what I think people should be for their sex partners. Good in bed, skills, acquire them. Giving of pleasure. Sometimes you give without an expectation of an immediate return. Sometimes you do for somebody. And game. Kind of game for anything, up for anything, within reason. No one has to do anything that leaves them curled up in the fetal position on the floor sobbing when it's all over for their partner. That means you're not a match, right? But oftentimes we react to an unfamiliar request with sort of a knee-jerk no. Not because it doesn't turn us on or couldn't turn us on or it's something we might like or could feel neutral about but do, but just because it's not something that came from us. And so we'll just shut somebody down. But I think you should be GGG. Study just out of the University of Toronto, I believe. Examine that very dynamic. People in their relationships who were doing things that weren't their favorites or doing things that even weren't a turn on for them. Not an active turn off, but weren't a turn on because they were the things that turned their partner on. Those people who were giving, who were being GGG, reported higher levels of sexual satisfaction in their relationships. Not just the person who was being indulged, of course that person is going to feel a higher level of sexual satisfaction. That person is getting what that person wants. No, the person who was doing the giving felt a higher level of sexual satisfaction, reported more orgasms, more sex, more pleasure, more enjoyment in their relationship for their having been GGG. So, science is with me now. What is the best way to open the mind of someone who is raised very conservatively and buys into those ideals wholesale? Just hang out with them. Nothing's more destabilizing to a worldview that was nailed down in middle school or high school than getting out in the world and meeting people who are different than you. You really have to work to maintain, and not all conservatives are closed-minded. You know, Andrew Sullivan is a really good friend of mine and he is very conservative and very gay, so there's that too. So I don't want to conflate conservatism with closed-mindedness, but to maintain a kind of closed-minded conservatism, you really have to wall off everyone who's different, a different type of person, a different kind of person, people with different politics, different opinions, and that's possible to do in America. You can go live in Branson, Mo-free Branson, Mo, and surround yourself only with closed-minded people. You know, that's why we have Arizona. It's like a reservation for closed-minded white people. But if you just stay friendly with this person, challenge this person, debate, argue, that's part of what he's in college for. Obviously, he's signed up for it already because he's engaging with you and you're different and you don't agree. Keep engaging with him and keep it friendly and upbeat and get stoned every once in a while. And do it. What have you heard about women with 2 vaginas? They're out there. It is a medical condition. It exists. Regarding your column where you told a reader who claimed she was raped she might be lying, would you like to formally apologize or have you already? Can you email that to me so I can see the column that we're talking about? I promise you, because I can't address this right now because I don't even know what column we're talking about. But if you email me this tonight, I will write about it tonight. Okay? Before I go to bed, savage@thestranger.com is my private email, which I just gave to everyone. Email me the column, because I'd like to see it before I whip myself for it. To the students who feel, oh my gosh, to the students who feel your presence on our campus is problematic due to your past remarks that were blatantly racist, anti-ace, ace means the asexual community, rape apologetic, and all around problematic, what would you say? I would say you don't have to come to my talk. I would say, I don't feel racist. I don't think I've written racist things. I wrote something after Prop 8 passed about being disappointed in the percentage of the African American vote that went for Prop 8, I didn't say, as people stuffed words in my mouth later, that African Americans passed Prop 8 in California. I said almost word for word what Melissa Harry Paris said on MSNBC on Rachel Maddow's show. But somehow it was received very differently coming from a gay white man. Anti-ace, some people in the asexual community have a problem with me because I have a problem with asexuals who aren't out about it. There are people who are asexual, which means no interest in any physical sex, any physical intimacy at all, who were getting into relationships with people who were sexual, with sexuals. And then they were being dumped when they came out to their partners as not sexual, as asexual. And I thought that was kind of misrepresenting yourself and not very nice. And I don't think that that's fair. That would be like me dating a woman and telling her on our wedding night, oh, by the way, this is Terry. I will be having the sex with him. You will be alone tonight on our wedding night because, unless you have two vaginas and you can take us both. And I don't think that's anti-ace, I think that's anti-deception. And I recognize that the asexual identity movement was really just taking off when we were debating these things in Savage Love. That there were people who, because they hadn't, the asexual AVN, the Asexual Visibility Network, didn't exist yet. There were people who were asexual who didn't understand what they were about until they found out about this new emerging identity. And they were already in relationships. And that was hugely problematic. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who know they're asexual, who misrepresent themselves to people who are sexual. I don't think that's anti-ace. It's not good as an asexual to get into a relationship with someone who wants to have sex. That's going to be a high conflict relationship. It will be no good for you. It's not anti-ace to say, don't do that. But you know, my column is a debate. And I'm not always right. And there are comment threads. And I print letters from people who disagree with me. I'm printing letters from people who disagree with me this week. If you think that it's problematic that there are people in the world who have opinions that bother you, annoy you, that you find jarring, that you disagree with, you're going to have a very rough life. That's some pretty thin skin. That's skin so thin you bleed in the rain. So that's what I'd say to people who think I'm problematic. Question about my sex life that Terry would not want me to answer. What do you think about interracial couples? All for it. Almost was one. Interesting, isn't it? When the bigots, the anti-gay bigots, point to these referendum, point to ballot initiatives, that they keep winning at the ballot box. If we had put interracial marriage up to a vote in the same 33 states that have voted no on same-sex marriage, when Loving v. Virginia came down, it would have lost everywhere. The anti-gay bigots are constantly saying that the American people agree with them. The American people are against same-sex marriage. Therefore, as evidenced by these votes, therefore same-sex marriage is wrong. You know, the American people have been wrong before. The American people were wrong about slavery, wrong about the internment of the Japanese, wrong about denying women the vote, wrong about so much. Wrong in 2004. When the American people are all in agreement about something, that should mean, based on our history, let's have another look. Not, we're done, and this debate is over. So, you know, one of the things I think about interracial couples is the way the needle has moved on that. From 70–80% disapproval to now 70–80+% approval is evidence of where we're going on same-sex marriage and same-sex couples. It used to be 70% against marriage rights for same-sex couples. Now it's more than 50% for marriage, and even a greater percentage for marriage plus and/or civil unions for same-sex couples. We're moving that way. How did you come up with the media scheme of getting Santorum to be the first Google hit? I didn't. I'm not that tech savvy. People just kept linking it. Google investigated the Santorum campaign, because if it's actually a Google bomb, if you're manipulating their algorithms dishonestly or cooking it somehow, they will wipe out your results. And Google did this big investigation into the Santorum, my Santorum site, to see if it had been artificially somehow pumped up, and determined that it had not. So, it wasn't a Google bomb. Which two public radio figures under the throes of lust or love would produce the best sex scandal? I would love to hear Carl Castle and Ira Glass. I don't want them to do it. They're both straight guys. But just their voices are so distinctive and like opposite ends of the public radio spectrum that you want them to mate and produce the ideal morning edition host. You've spoken of the current war against all non-baby producing sex. What is our best defense and steps against these fearful crazies? Will we ever change any of them at all? A gay conservative the other day tweeted that he didn't understand why gay rights organizations had positions on choice, on reproductive freedom for women, because it's not like any gay dudes out there are pregnant, or any 100% lesbians are pregnant, right? Why choice is a gay issue is because gay is a choice issue. Not gay is a choice, but choice is having control of your own body, making your own decisions about when and whether you're going to be sexual, with whom you're going to be sexual, with whom you're going to partner, when you want to parent, if you want to parent, having control of your body. That's what the bedrock issue is that unites feminists and the LGBT movement. Who owns you? Do you own you? Or does that dipshit in Missouri who's running for the Senate against Claire McCaskill own you? I think you own you, women, and I think gay people own their own bodies. So when you look at the religious right and their social issues, it's all about who owns you. Birth control, which is suddenly controversial again, thanks to last year. Birth control, access to birth control, abortion, gay marriage, the HPV vaccine. This is all about somebody out there doesn't want you having sex for pleasure. Somebody doesn't think that you get to decide what you do with your body and with whom you're going to do it. How do you fight back against those people? You argue with them and you win. People basically believe that you own your own person and that you should be allowed to make your own choices. We are a pro-choice country. We're also a pro-gun control country when you look to the polls. But a small number of completely insane motherfuckers can game our system and get a minority-backed outcome on guns. We could wind up in the same place on access to contraception. We are in that place now in many states on access to abortion. So we have to fight back, we have to argue, we have to link these issues. There is a thick black line that goes from birth control to choice, to gay rights, to gay marriage, to equal pay for women. And we have to make that point. We won't change all their minds. This is America. Canada got the French, Australia got the convicts, we got the Puritans. A lot of them are here in this state, I understand. Which is what's wrong with America. So we're never gonna shake that off unless we can do a swap with Canada and we take Quebec and they take the South. No offense. My preferred option is to keep growing cities like Asheville and Charlotte. Because when you look at a map of the United States, there's no such thing as a blue state. There are red states with big blue cities. That's how we flip a state. And I hope to God that Obama takes you guys again this year, that you give him your electoral college votes. I only have a couple more minutes and I have 3 more questions and then I'll be done, okay? Do you want me to stop now? Okay. What does Obama do for the gay community and why the fuck would anyone support Romney? I don't know. This is for the old people. Remember that Saturday Night Live sketch where John Lovitz was playing Michael Dukakis against what's-his-face's George H.W. Bush? And Dukakis looked at George H.W. Bush and went, I can't believe I'm losing to this guy, right? I hope it doesn't come to that. That Romney doesn't surge, because Romney is so terrible. This shit over Libya in the last 24 hours, the lying, the sliming. Go to Andrew Sullivan's website, andrewsullivan.com, and see the statements that are there that, how is this possible? That will make you remember affectionately the character of Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush. Because during the 1980 campaign, during the hostage crisis in Iran, there was the failed raid, where a bunch of Marines died in helicopters in the desert. Carter sent them out. Read what Reagan and George H.W. Bush said about that raid that went so terribly wrong that Carter had okayed and overseen. And then compare it to what Mitt Romney did in the last 24 hours, and ask yourself, what the hell happened to the Republican Party? What does Obama do for the gay community? He has evolved. He has done so much. He is the most pro-gay president we have ever had. From hospital visitation rights, to repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, to backing marriage equality, to getting into the Democratic platform. There's a million things. The anti-bullying initiative waged by the White House, though flawed, like everything is flawed, it has flaws. The anti-bullying initiative has done remarkable things. Any gay person you meet who isn't voting for Barack Obama isn't paying attention. And you have my permission to slap them. Figuratively. As a gay lesbian, how can we get Obama reelected? Vote, vote, vote. Don't let your friends look at the poll numbers and Obama surge and think, oh, we can relax. We can't relax. It ain't over till it's over. Vote, vote, vote. Social media, a new study came out that said social media drives voting in a way that no one realized. Seeing reminders to vote on Facebook and Twitter actually gets people to vote. So defriend all your Republican relatives and then send constant reminders to vote to everybody else on your Facebook feed. What are some great ways to know if a guy is gay? My gaydar is awful, and I can't tell if guys are just nice or if they are into me. Maybe this wouldn't fly here, but there's always asking. There's always saying, I'm gay, how about you? Are you just nice, or do you want my penis in you? Because I'm confused, and I don't want to accidentally put my penis in you if that's not what you wanted. Ask, ask, ask. There's nothing wrong with being gay, so there's nothing wrong with thinking someone might be gay and inquiring. Don't do anything stupid. Don't blurt it out in the middle of a football game or something. I don't know where it would be dangerous. Last question, and it's a good one. How do I start a threesome? Three-way once, a three-way relationship. There's so many different kinds of threesomes. Threesomes are varsity sex. So you want to get through JV first. There are two things when people talk about wanting to have three ways. Two things that they usually say. They want, or many things they usually say. They want somebody who's disease-free, completely trustworthy, doesn't use drugs or alcohol, is sane, in no way will threaten the relationship, and is hot, and will appear the moment before the three-way starts and evaporate the moment it's over. Right? They want this person to sort of blow in from Mars. I'm back from Mars, let's have a three-way. And I have to go back to Mars now, and you're never gonna see me again. You can have a three-way with a stranger, or you can have a three-way with someone who is, that you know is sane, disease-free, respectful of your relationship. But you can't have both at once. To know that they're disease-free, sane, gonna respect your relationship, you have to get to know them. They can't be a stranger that disappears. People who might be up for three-ways don't want to feel like a tube sock that you found on the floor that the both of you are jerking off into. Do you want to feel like that ever? If you want that kind of person, there are sex workers. That old cliche, like, you don't pay the prostitute for the sex, you pay the prostitute to go away after the sex. So there's that route to a three-way. But sane, disease-free, non-exploitative, knowing that person hasn't been trafficked, if you're paying a sex worker, those are all harder to do. The best three-ways are the ones where it's somebody that you know and like and trust and feel some affection for and want to have, if not permanently in your bed or permanently in your relationship, they're at least a part of your life. Those are the people you can trust. I've always found, Terry and I have had three-ways, that the only ones we've ever had have been with good friends. People we know, like exes, and trust, and the relationship got a little dirty. And these people are still our friends. It's really fun. We have a Christmas Day open house. It's part of our war on Christmas. For all of our Catholic neighbors. We live in a big Catholic neighborhood. We live like 2 blocks from St. Joe's, this huge Catholic school and gorgeous church in Seattle. So we live in they used to call it the Catholic ghetto in Seattle on Capitol Hill. And so all of our neighbors are Catholic, and I'm Catholic. Terry's not Catholic, he's Episcopalian, which my grandmother always said is a Catholic who goes to hell. And so on Christmas Day, we have the big open house, because I'm from a huge family, but there's just the 3 of us, and Christmas without lots of people, preferably drunk, doesn't seem like Christmas. And so on Christmas Day, we have this big open house, and there are all of our Catholic neighbors and all of their kids, and our friend the professional dominatrix, and our friend the porn star, and my ex-boyfriend that we've had these crazy three-ways with, interacting with our Catholic neighbors. Very pleasantly, because they're part of our lives. We don't exclude the people that we've had three-ways with. We don't wall them off. It's better to have a three-way with somebody that you like enough to have dinner with, like enough to include, than to have a three-way with somebody you want to evaporate. Nobody wants to feel used that way. So, thank you all very much for your questions tonight. I had a blast chatting with you. Cheers. Thanks. Please vote for Barack Obama. Please volunteer. Please give money. I want elections to be publicly financed, but right now they aren't. And they've got all the billionaires, but we have all the human beings. So kick in what you can. Thank you all very much. North Carolina, come through for us again.